Player you should be leaving on your bench, wide receiver Juju Smith-Schuster. He's the wide receiver 35 on Fantasy Pros, but right now I have him at wide receiver 37, and maybe that's even too generous. So right now, Juju Smith-Schuster, wide receiver 35. He's wide receiver 47 on the season, and the Vegas Raiders are one of the more difficult matchups against wide receivers so far. The implied points total, 29 points for the Kansas City Chiefs. And this is the Monday night game, Raiders versus Chiefs. So, you got to move him into your flex play or your flex position or even out of it, depending on the size of your league. I mean, looking at what Juju has done over the last few weeks, he has not finished better than wide receiver 35 in PPR on any week. So he's literally being projected at his ceiling so far for 2022. And so I want to be lower than that. Looking at what he's done, he's run the same amount of routes. He's gotten 8 targets in 3 of 4 games. He's had 5 receptions or more in 3 of those 4 games. But it's the short yardage issue with Juju Smith-Schuster. Like, he's had 1 deep target. His average target distance is 9 yards, 68th among wide receivers. That's really, really bad. His target premium is one of the worst. It's 85th. And you're wondering, what is target premium? Target premium is the percentage of additional fantasy points per target that a receiver generates over and above the other pass catchers on his team. This metric is especially useful when examining the impact of a quarterback upgrade on a player's future production. He is at negative 26.5% target premium. That is really bad. Juju is not making things happen on this Chiefs offense, despite Patrick Mahomes. This is what I worried about. I had Juju low in my rankings going into 2022, and this was the exact concern. Now I got the Marquez Valdes-Scantling take wrong, like that side of it, but if you look at previous videos that I put on this YouTube channel, I said that Marquez Valdes-Scantling and Juju Smith-Schuster have about the same ceiling, right? And we have not seen ceiling games from Juju. That's the concern. It's just not within his range of outcomes. What we have seen in his range of outcomes is like back end wide receiver 3 at best. At best. But at worst, we saw week 2, Bryce Callahan hold Juju Smith-Schuster to 4 PPR fantasy points, finishing as wide receiver 82. If that's the floor and 35 is the ceiling, you need to be out on Juju. Like, if there's still some Juju Smith-Schuster lovers in your league, like, you should ship them off. Like, I may be dropping Juju Smith-Schuster. So I'm in a shallow super flex league. Juju was on waivers. I picked him up like at week 2. I didn't start him, but I picked him up, and I might just drop him to pick up the likes of and this is a shallow super flex league. Like, I picked up Deshaun Watson instead of Juju Smith-Schuster because of the upside. Right. And I'm willing to stash because I don't want, in a super flex league, I don't want my league mates having that. And I know when, Deshaun Watson's going to play. So, Juju Smith-Schuster is a player that is that there are red flags here. Looking at some of the other metrics, he's not playing the full complement of snaps. He's still only playing 65% of snaps. He's playing, his route participation is 60th among wide receivers. As I mentioned, his air yards is terrible, 20.3% air yard share. That's 60th among wide receivers. He's not getting looks down the field, really limiting his ceiling, which is why, I liked the ceiling of Marquez Valdes-Scantling more than Juju, despite, MVS not really doing much. For what it's worth, Marcus Valdes-Scantling is only about 14 wide receiver spots below Juju on the season. And that's with MVS having like this forgettable season so far. MVS has scored 8 fantasy points in PPR 3 of his 4 weeks. So, I mean, be that as it may, we haven't seen the ceiling game from MVS yet, but he's still running at least 68% of the routes. He's running more routes than Juju, and he's getting, these. He's not really getting the deeper targets that we expected. Although I wondered if MVS would get those. I wonder if it's Sky Moore who takes over for Juju instead of for Marcus Valdes-Scantling. But if you're stashing anyone for long term, Sky Moore. Stash Sky Moore. He's a good player.